on, let me see you shake your tail, baby. Come on, let me see you shake your tail, baby. Let me tell you a tale.
Please don't.
So, you want to make your own tail, do ya? Well, you're going to need 3 key ingredients. You're going to need polyfill beanbag pellets, a pool noodle, and obviously fabric. In this case, you can use costume leather that looks like scales, or you can use fleece if you want to keep it simple. The first to work on is the skeleton of the project. Lay your pool noodle on a leveled, spacious area, like a floor or table, and then take a Sharpie and draw a straight line down one side of the noodle. Make it as straight as you possibly can. Then, measure around the noodle to find out the exact diameter so you can mark and align the opposite side. Also, keep in mind you want to use a standard pool noodle. Don't go cheap by picking one of the ones from the dollar store because they're pretty weak and they don't last very long. I want to pause for a moment and let all of you youngsters and irresponsible people out there to be cautious with this next step, because it requires using a sharp object. I must place a disclaimer here for those of you who should not be permitted to handle dangerous tools such as this. I highly recommend finding your folks or a trustworthy adult, if there are any around, to do this next step in order to avoid injury, and maybe any possible lawsuits. So you and the supposed trustworthy adult that you're with can take the knife and then take the edge of the pool noodle, slowly and gently cutting down an angle until you hit about halfway down. Repeat the process at an opposite angle until they meet up halfway. Pull out that piece and make sure that section of the trimmed noodle has a good flex as a result. You're going to repeat this process every 5 to 6 inches, all the way down the pool noodle. Be sure to do this along your marked line to keep the holes aligned. Then repeat this process on the opposite side of the noodle, but be sure that the holes you make are directly in between the holes previously created in diameter. This will give the noodle a flexible structure and therefore giving your tail a more realistic motion. Now it's time to create your tail skin. You'll need to measure out exactly how long you want your tail. Then fold the fabric you chose with the outer pattern inside. Draw out how you want your tail to be shaped up. Cut about an inch outside of the line for space. Then you can stitch all around except for the base opening. I recommend that you do at least 2 layers of stitching for extra security, maybe even more. If you'd also like to add additional features to your tail, such as spikes or horns or appendages, then take an extra piece of fabric that you want to use, cut out some triangles, then individually stitch 2 pieces of them together enough amount of times until you're satisfied with the amount. Now, if this makes sense, pull the outside in of the tail. Then take a small amount of regular stuffing for the very tip of the tail. Get your carved noodle and insert it into the base until it reaches the point where it meets the stuffing in the tip area. Place a couple of pins above the fabric so that it can hold in place before you move on to the pellet filling. Now this is going to be very delicate work. Pour the pellets into the tail very slowly and carefully, because if you're not careful enough with this part, it could get very messy very quickly. Pour a small amount at first, and then shake that tail so that the pellets travel to the bottom. Repeat this process until you nearly reach the top. Then fill the base area with light stuffing. Close the opening with either a layer of high-density foam or thick layers of fabric. Then cover the base with coordinating fabric and stitch it, closing it up. Now, whether you have spikes or horns or appendages made for it, you want to take those shapes, properly stuff them, and then align them however you want before stitching them onto your tail. Me being kind of predictable, I'm going to have them symmetrically aligned. But it is your cosplay, so you can arrange it however you want. Just be sure to watch for your inner OCD cosplayer. Now, moving back to the base, I prefer to add something for extra security when it comes to pinning this thing to your arse. If you take a piece of elastic, fold it inwards, take your glue gun, and apply it under both sides of the fold carefully. Press firmly until the loop is secured. Feel free to add more on the sides. With these, you can use as many safety pins as you need. Having a tail separate can make it easier and more convenient as long as you can secure and remove it properly. And with all the patterns and colors available, you can make as many tails as you want for any cosplay. Speaking of tails, that's the end of my tail, and hopefully you can create your own, and feel free to share it when you're done with it. So take this tutorial, enjoy yourself, and remember to stay savvy, everybody. Thanks for watching.